to point number 4, the water of life. Now a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it parted, and it became 4 riverheads. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one which skirts the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and the onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one which travels around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. It is the one which goes toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates, which is also known as Perat in Hebrew. The theme of the water of life goes literally from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and it winds all the way through both Testaments. Right here in the Genesis account, we see that there is one river which flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it parted and it became 4 riverheads. And this is amazingly similar to the gospel message in which the Lord delights. And in fact, as I said, Eden means delight. From both the Garden of Eden and from his gospel, we see the amazing parallels. The names of the rivers are Pishon, which means to increase, Gihon, which means to burst forth, Hiddekel, which means rapid, and Perat, which means fruitfulness. Each of these rivers came from one source, and together they wound their way around the known world. In the same way, the gospel comes from one source, and yet it branches out into 4 different accounts: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Each of these gospels reflects the glory of the Lord as was revealed in a vision of God to Ezekiel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the vision or the theophany that Ezekiel saw in with the gospel accounts, and then I'm going to tie it in with the names of the 4 rivers, okay? Here's the account from Ezekiel. As for the likeness of the faces, each had the face of a man. Each of the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side. Each of the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side. And each of the 4 had the face of an eagle. The lion's face is the Gospel of Matthew, which describes Jesus as the King of Israel, the lion being a symbol of a king. This is also symbolized by the river Gihon, which means to burst forth. Later in the Bible, the Gihon is where the kings of Israel were anointed. When they became king, they took them down to the Gihon and they anointed them there. In Ezekiel chapter 32, the king of Egypt is said to burst forth, or in Hebrew, geach, like a lion or like a sea monster. And this is actually the root word of the word Gihon. So you have a parallel there. The next one is the ox. The ox's face in the theophany is the Gospel of Mark, which describes Jesus as the servant. The ox is a servant animal, and this is symbolized by the river Pishon, which means to increase, which parallels Proverbs 14:4 and other places in the Bible. Where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much increase comes from the strength of an ox. The man's face is the Gospel of Luke, which describes Jesus as the Son of Man. It's repeated, 60 times in the Gospel of Luke. This is symbolized by the river Perat, which means fruitfulness. Just as man was told to be fruitful and multiply on the earth. And the eagle's face is the Gospel of John, which describes Jesus as the Son of God. If you know the terminology, eagle is the animal that is like the deity, and so it's symbolizing Jesus as the Son of God. And this is symbolized by the river Hiddekel, which is the modern day river of the Tigris, which means rapid. The rapid nature of the eagle is noted throughout the Old Testament, such as in Jeremiah 4:13, where it says, "Behold, he shall come up like the clouds, and his chariots like a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles." Together, these 4 accounts, which stem from one single source, go out to water the entire world with the knowledge of the Lord and to proclaim the water of life, which was symbolized by the 4 rivers flowing out of the Garden of Eden.